the way that the folklore goes in my family is at half time against Leeds, I was approached by a few friends who were leaving the game. And my granddad turned to me and went, "Don't worry, lads, don't go. We'll win this." And we did. And he said exactly the same thing to me at that Southampton game. He's no longer with us now. We've got a little stone outside the ground. And as I said, he's probably the reason why me and my dad and everyone does go to Tranmere. So for me, that Southampton game, it does have proper meaning for me, because once again, the lads that go to the game with me now, they call it like the spooky ghost emoji. I get to a point in the game where I look the spit of the spooky ghost on your keyboard as an emoji, because just like the colour drains from me and I'm like that invested in the game. And there's been plenty of occasions where I've looked worse than a spooky ghost, but I clearly was in one of those moments at half time. My granddad, "Don't worry, we'll win this. We'll win this." And the swine, you just knew he was being serious as well. He was one of those kind of people that could laugh off things, but he was being serious as well. And yeah, I remember that game was absolute mental when we actually won it on cloud nine coming home. I remember watching the game again because I'd recorded it off Sky, and I watched it live again when I got home. I remember was it Andy Gray on the halftime commentary had said, game over, that kind of thing. And then just as we scored the fourth on the Sky commentary, he put, "Never write this small little Tranmere team off." That all the kind of emotions of that game. It was just absolutely in awe that we could come back. I remember, was it Dean Richards? Was it? He had a chance in the second half to make it 4-0. And I remember kind of giving it the jeers at that, hey, you crap, you've missed it. And normally that's the point where Tranmere's history writes into that player doing something ridiculously skillful and finishing the game off. But yeah, we didn't that night. Stuart Barlow and Paul Rideout were the saviours. And yeah, I think, as I said to you before, I equally dislike Everton and Liverpool, so I never really quite took to Rideout like I did to many other Tranmere players, which I think to me they're kind of like demigods. That that I idolise them as a sportsman and as a player, and they, to me, I could have met Paul Gascoigne, or I could have met Kenny Hines. I would have been just as starstruck with both. But I never quite took to Paul Rideout as much as others, because I think the Everton link. But yeah, that night, fair play. For an old boy, he did well.
I don't want to feel like I'm constantly questioning your memory, Rich, but I'm pretty sure that the chance that Richards had wasn't at 3-0.
Was it not?
I think it was at either 3-3 or 4-3.
Was it?
And it's at the back post, sliding in at the cowshed end.
Yeah, I remember being the cowshed end because it was
basically an empty net. Yeah. But that was the moment there that they could have either put the game to bed at 4-3 or got back into it. Because if they had gone to 4-3, Tranmere wouldn't have come back into it. I mean, it's amazing when you look back at it now. 5 Live were doing commentary of the game that night, and at half time with Tranmere 3-0 down, they went to the other game, the other replay that was taking place that night, which was Wimbledon against Wycombe, which Wycombe went on to win on penalties. And people will remember that Wycombe eventually played in the semi-final against Liverpool, who Tranmere lost to in the quarters, and Wycombe obviously lost that night because Liverpool did the treble that season. But I mean, that Southampton game is just remarkable, and I'm pretty sure I would have been 10. My brother was there as a 6-year-old, and I'm pretty sure we'd have asked my dad to leave at half time, and he'd have said no. And I imagine there are hundreds of other people listening to this who are in exactly the same scenario. And those steadfast parents who said, no, you never leave a game early, have taught people a lesson, certainly me, that has served me well in life. Because if I was to have left a game early, I'd have missed the comebacks against the likes of Barrow and Accrington and Watford. So that game is the perfect message, really, for just give it the duration, because you never know what Tranmere are capable of.
Yeah, and memory is hard of it, but I know the lad who came to me in that game about leaving early at Leeds. It was a lad who now takes his kids to the games at Tranmere. He was a copite at the time, but I think he's more Tranmere now, and it's good to see him taking the kids. I had a good conversation with him the other month, and I bumped into him at the ground. But being that kind of age, when we were 15, stroke 16, spotty with beards, it was more about like sort of trying to sneak into a pub somewhere and have a sly pint. So I think that was what was taken by a few people. But anyone who left that game, as I said to you before, there's certain times as Tranmere fans that you just look back and go, what have I witnessed? And there's so many people that we're so lucky to have witnessed it, and there's so many people that will never witness anything as good. And if you weren't there, you wouldn't understand it. They go, it's just Southampton, was it Glenn Hoddle, the manager? They weren't like a top Premier League team, but it was just to be so unlikely that would happen, and to be so far and dead out of a game, to then as soon as we got a sniff, for everyone to just believe, and kind of almost Yuri Geller levels of mind, kind of positivity from the stand just got into the Southampton heads, and we managed to do it, and we did it repeated times. There's notable games like West Ham, at home. I remember that one being an amazing atmosphere. That's not one of my games I've chose, but there's so many times when just being there and being part of it seems to have made a difference.
You say they weren't a great Premier League team, which is correct, they weren't, but they still had some pretty decent players playing for that night. Marion Pahars, James Beattie, Joe Tessam, Uwe Rossler came off the bench. Hassan Kashlour was a very tidy player. Wayne Bridge, Dean Richards, Claude Lundekvarm. It was by no means a poor Southampton team, and Tranmere somehow turned them around in the second half. I was in the Johnny King stand. You'd have been in the Kop. Yep. What was it like in there that night?
I suppose it's the common term now is limbs, isn't it? But it went mental. And to be fair, as I said, it's just the thing that would be surprising for if that was your first game. The change on that first goal, the change at Tranmere at that time, and in particular in that period, didn't matter how many they'd scored. As soon as we got our first, we were back in the game, and it kind of, as soon as we started, it was just something that perpetuation, it just wasn't going to be stopped. No matter what Southampton were going to do, we were winning that game. That's just the way it went. But I remember the emotion of, feeling so down and out that we're not getting anywhere in this. And the half-time ritual with my dad and my granddad at the Mars bar and the coffee, he's like, nah, we're going to win this with confidence. And I'm looking at him like, nah, not a chance. These are Premier League, and we're 3-0 down. Bang, it happens. So the Kop for me on those sorts of occasions, and it's probably one of the reasons why I don't leave. And I suppose it's like the lottery. I buy a ticket and don't necessarily always win, but then there's certain games when you do win. Like look at Crewe at home in this last season. Who would have thought that game would have turned so special, being in the Kop that day? It was not far off probably not the top 5, but maybe towards the top 10 games that I've been to, and that's just the people that bothered to turn up and proper, as I said, that tribal kind of raw emotion of wanting to will the team to do something. I felt that at Crewe this year. It was unreal being in there. It was a brilliant game.